Hello, guys. I'm really relaxed. Just gonna be chilled. Just talk a bit. If you want to hang around and listen, hang around and listen. If you want to know anything about the UAP, UFO, the actual sightings we believe that people do, and UAP makes more sense than UFO. UFO should just be deleted, and we should just be going with UAP, which is still a ignorant answer for what's going on. And what I am trying to get people to follow and understand, let that noise all die, that the supernatural, what's seen as on the racetrack, is just giving us that noise. The supernatural get involved in that noise. So how do I explain that to a person that they mix in there? How do I explain to a person that all those potholes you're driving on are because of them? How do I explain to people that a lot of this weather damage we see happening is because of them? Tree foliage. You know, there's been many tree branches that end up breaking off and then torpedoed down like a spear, going through a roof and spearing somebody in the bed there, killing them. Many stories of that instances. You know, many instances where you, the viewer, we, the people, have seen things, so many different things. There's so many counts of it where a person seen the action and questions how that could have really happened. Maybe not seen so much the action, but sees the outcome of the action. Because usually all the action that these supernatural beings do aren't within our daytime visual best moments. It's always when it's going to be the least amount of chance of being caught. And so the people who believe that these beings are only nighttime beings, you know, you got to realize that they actually are daytime beings too. They're around the clock beings. Do they rest? We'll find that out. But around the clock, and part of how that happens is totally in the areas that are unwatched right at this moment. They're more free there. You know, they can leave marks of invisibility, so you don't even know. They will mix in with the marks that we believe are nature and natural, and they'll mix in with them, and you won't pick up on that. So if you ever come across one of my beaver videos, you'll see how I've pointed out the difference between wood chips from an actual beaver and an actual tree knocked down by a beaver witnessed, and how that formation, that piece of art, is all sculpted there. Okay, and then and stuff, and how it is, you know, comes to, you know, all the cutting marks and everything that looks on it. Well, these beings are quite the artists. It's kind of interesting because a lot of the ones that they do, most of them, their cutting marks seem straight across the board on most of those tree falls that are supposed to be a beaver knocked down. Sometimes there's been times where these have been chewed on like and such like that, 5-6 feet off of the ground, stuff like that, where a beaver could have never gotten it. Anyways, so they're mixing in with an animal. You know, if a farmer ever realizes, man, my cows sound sick out there at night sometimes and stuff, or whatever, even during the day sometimes, and so on and so forth. But there's something off about their calls. Then throw that into your mind. As that farmer also had to do with cattle at all completely disappearing, or coming across a mutilated one of the ones without any blood left behind, hardly. They're not bloodless, those ones, guys. There are blood. The animal are blood animals, so if they're slaying there is going to be an understanding of blood. But what it is a lot of the blood is gone. For instance, like with that beaver, the fall down there, the wood chips, the chips that are actually cut off and just should be sporadic around. Not unless they're really up there at the skin. The beaver ain't paying much attention to them. If it's just the inside of the tree, he's just doing that to knock down the tree, so they can get at the leaves and then get at the skin of the tree. They're not wanting, or unless they want to build up their, build up a dam. And that dam understanding is the noise that gets to them, is that they don't want their water to be trickling away, it sounds like, by how scientists understand that, by a beaver. But, where else could I go with this stuff? Yeah, so I've done a bunch of little shorts. Any questions that you guys want answered, ask me. Try to just put it in a short form, and I'm going to shoot it back short form. Like, here's proof that you can go videotape, or even go watch and study. I showed it to somebody for the first time today, and he was knowing he was catching something, but he wasn't grabbing it as much as his mind wanted to pull it in, I guess. And that is my video. That is only at about 151,000 views. It's about its 5th year up. It's called First Face-to-Face Bigfoot Encounter, I believe is how I've named it. Blah, blah, blah. And so First Face-to-Face, my most viewed. I go by a nickname of Tin Man if anybody wants to call me that or whatever, and that's based on I have a severe case of tinnitus, however you want to say it, but it is tinnitus. And why? Oh yeah, and then I got another one that's called hyperacusis. It's kind of like a sound allergy. So what I've got is I've got a couple of sound allergies, sound ailments. One that's continuously in my head, where I hear it, where I only understand that I'm hearing it. It's coming through somehow through our hearing system, because I believe some people maybe have had it surgically worked on also. So, and I believe they believe it comes through all that system or something. Mine has come from sound-related injury and head injury is how I've gotten my tinnitus. I have it all in a high notes, nothing in low frequency, like a baritone, nothing like that. So you think about it, if I'm somewhere in the bush and a tone, because these guys tone a lot. They just working with the race car. However they're doing it legit to be the race car. It's kind of neat in a way, because I'm not getting as much feedback from my right ear, this one, as I was on some of the drags earlier, from supposedly a rebound echoing from this side, because this is where the sound is being generated. But what they know, this is where it gets tough, guys, but they study you. So obviously I've been studying them for 7 years, so they studied and realized that I've watched them more than average. Good enough for an answer? Because I'm just this guy. I'm just Ian Armstrong. My dad is just a guy named John. My mother was a person named Isabel. They had parents, and they had parents, and they had parents, and so on and so forth. And I had my life that has helped to guide me from childhood to be sitting in this spot having this conversation. So it's not unwarranted, maybe, because I've done so much animal studying. I've owned, I can't remember, but over 1,000 animals. I've had reptiles of different sorts, farm animals, births. I used to sit, and every one of my animals I had probably put in a number of times of sitting and just studying them, letting them do whatever they're doing, and I sat outside or in times inside and their environment and would just sit there and study them. Never had one going, so it's not like you're just looking at one feature going on. Always had lots going on. So like when I did my snakes, I got my count of snakes got up into the 60s. I was becoming very successful at a big breeding batch of snakes. I had some exotics in there and some real cool stuff. And I had a mishap with a heater in my room. I didn't take the time to do that morning check that I did almost every day. This morning I decided forget it. And I would have gotten signaled right off the bat, and all I would have had to do was disconnect my heater and I would have been okay. But I didn't, and by the time I got home from work, it was like cooking heat. Sorry to say. To many of my creatures. Didn't lose them all, but I lost most of them. And my heart just was broken, and I ended up pretty much almost... First guy who came along seemed like a really good character, was buying one of my good snakes or whatever, so I ended up just giving him everything, cages and all. Big breeder boa, one of the biggest boas out there probably, just a, you know, the calming Colombian red tail sort of thing like that. She was huge. Her first clutch, she had given me 48 babies. So let's get back onto these guys. I have figured out communication. I do communication. Believe it? Believe it. Don't believe it? Don't believe it. Believe it, and you're in the right spot. Because this communication is not necessarily something you would just figure out or people would just figure out how I'm doing it. It's been a whole series of actually putting it together. In a way, me being away so much for the last year and a half has made me create something different instead of creating videos that were being unsuccessful and getting attention on this subject. Because trust me, I'm $4,000 profit into this or something. Profit $4,000 that I've made through YouTube, something like that, somewhere in that range. Is it 5,000? Is it 3,000? You tell me. So if you want to contribute, let me know. I want to go bigger and better. I'm doing this house sitting another week and a half here. Less than a week and a half. And I'm back on the free range. That year and a half, I was busy. I was helping someone out here, helping someone out with this house sit. Actually, it's more about the cats sitting. House would be fine if I was in there. But I'm not complaining because this time I'm really connecting with that front couch and the doors open and the coolness and stuff. Not to say that there's much coolness, it's heat waves hitting here. But I'm really enjoying it this year. My mind is more successful at accepting it as a place to sleep too, not just about the cat. Our minds. It's all about our minds, guys. So much of it is about our minds. You know that, right? Before our physical, our minds are the first more important. If you don't have the mind, you're not operating any physical. You're not understanding physical. You're not looking towards physical on us average ways. Some ways I say I'm below average in some techniques of human capabilities, and then on some ways of human would be classed as a Joe Blow kind of average, and then in some other ways on my scale I'm above average. Like one person complimented me really well, and it hit me really good, kind of good. On one of my comments way back, a few years back there, he said, on this subject, you're like an IQ of 200. And I thought, it's not that I'm a 200, but I get the distance, I get an understanding out of distance of people to hear. But it's not IQ so much, because so much of it is learnable. So can you increase your IQ? I don't know. You tell me. So if we can, which I almost believe we can, I don't really understand what the IQ means though. So how can you measure an IQ when a kid's 4, and then do it again when he's 40, and then do it again when he's 80, and all 3 times they come out the same? I don't know. Yes, shall I hit pause? Watch this and fast forward. I could say at the very beginning, but I didn't. Cheers.